Hi.
Hi. Are you sure this course is just for 2499?
Yes, and you know this is the only course with this expertise across the world.
No way.
Yes way. Don't delay. Enroll now.
Geeks learning together.
Hi.
Hi. Are you sure you can prepare for product-based companies through this course?
Yes, sitting at home?
No way.
Yes way. Don't delay. Enroll now.
Geeks learning together.
Hi, and welcome to Geeks for Geeks. Can I have a quick +1 in the chat if you are in the chat so that we can start quickly? Just give me a quick +1, then we would start right away. Okay, we would just wait for 30 to 20 seconds, then we would start. Okay, fair enough. Okay, yeah, it is done by StreamYard. Okay, fair enough. We have a lot of people. Okay, thanks a lot. Hi Zahir, hi Lalit, hi Lyrical Nepal. Okay, so many of you have joined. So let's start the stream right away. Okay, so without any further ado, let me just. Okay, fair enough. Okay, let me just share my screen. Okay. Okay. Today we would be doing a very interesting problem. Okay. And we would discuss many approaches. Okay. And the main idea of this stream, or the main thing about this stream, is that you won't be just solving the question, or rather you won't be just getting the solution. The main idea here is that you would get to know how to present a particular question in an interview. Okay, how would you proceed forward, how would you answer other things. Okay, so before moving that, let me just show you what is this problem statement. So we are given an array of n elements. Suppose the array n is equals to 5. So we would be given 5 elements: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let us zero index them. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we need to find the majority element. Okay, now what is majority element? A majority element in an array of size n is an element that appears more than n by 2 times in an array. Okay, so basically what do you mean by n by 2 times? Suppose the number of elements is 4, then the frequency of that majority element should be greater than 2. Okay, 4 divided by 2 is equals to 2, and the frequency should be greater than 2. Okay, fair enough. Moving forward, suppose the case when n is equals to odd. When n is equals to odd, we would divide it by 2. Okay, and it is 2.5. Now the frequency of a particular element cannot be in fraction, so it should be greater than 2.5. So it should be greater than is equals to 3. Okay, fair enough. I hope this is clear. So let us see the frequency of each elements. Okay, so the first element is 3. So we would have a frequency of 3 is equals to 1. Then moving forward, we have 1. So 1 frequency is increased by 1. Rather, earlier it was 0. So now it is 1. Then it is again 3. So we would increase the frequency. Okay. So it is frequency is increased to 2. Then the frequency is again increased. So it is 3. Then we would increase the frequency of 2. That is 1. So 5 divided by 2 is equals to 2.5, and it should be greater than is equal to 3. So the majority element in this is 3 itself. Okay, this is what you need to find out. But before proceeding forward, just tell me what can be the approach, the first approach. I'm not talking about the whole solution. I'm not interested in that. I'm there for you. Okay, I just want the first thing that you should do in the interview when you are given this question. Okay, so let me just go back and remove my screen. Okay, tell me, how would you tell me? Okay, question की list share करना. Okay, sure. But rather what we would be doing today we would be focusing on a particular question. Okay, so please tell me, how would we just solve this problem? Okay, apply linear search. How would you apply linear search to a particular? So you don't know the element. It might be the case that the element is some other element. How would you know that element? You want to search that element. Okay, is it possible to learn? Okay, we would be talking about these are general questions apart from the question in any other stream. Okay, fair enough. So just tell me, how would you do that? So hash map is the efficient way. We would talk about it. Why hash map is not the most efficient way? Okay, we would talk. Okay, hashing, hash table. Okay, fair enough. We would move forward. But before that, let me just proceed. Okay, so the first thing that you should do is shouldn't directly. So the first approach should be the brute force approach. Now the brute force approach is that you would consider all cases. So basically brute force approach is basically about considering all possible scenarios and taking out the best one. Mostly brute force solution is this. So how would you consider all possible scenarios then boil down to the best approach? How would you do that? Okay, so to consider every possible scenario here means consider every element as majority element. I would just write any, okay, to save time. Moving forward, now suppose we have A0, A1, A2, A3 and A4. So if we have 5 elements, then we need to consider first this element, then we need to consider this element, okay, and we would keep moving forward, okay. So how would you do that? So consider every element as majority element. You should first click here. So if you would drop down here, so you need to check what is the frequency of this particular element. So what you can do is, I would take this element and I would check with this element, with this element, with this element and with this element. Or rather what you can do is you can check the whole array and you can count. Suppose this element is this element is this. So let us take an example to understand it better. 31332. Let's take the sample test case only. So what you can do is 3, 1, 3, 3, 2. So first you would consider the first element as the majority element. So you would start counting the frequency of 3. Frequency of 3 here is 1. Then we would move forward and we found the element. Here we found the element, but it might be the case that it would be the last element that we are able to find. Okay, last element, which is the majority element. It won't ever be the last element. Why? Let me tell you the reason for that also. Because it is a majority element, the frequency would always be greater than n by 2. Okay, so you would be encountering that element before you cross that n by 2 bar. Okay, so how would you implement this? To implement this is very easy. Okay, you would have a for loop, okay, where I would be equal to 0 and then I is less than equal to n, okay, for simplicity, and then I plus plus. Now we are taking hold. This is for consideration of each element as the majority element. This is considering every element as the majority element. Moving forward, what can be done is we need another loop to check the number of frequency. So what we would do is we would have a nested loop here, and that would be j is equals to 0, j is again less than n, and then again j plus plus. Okay, now if a of I is equals to a of j, then you would increment a counter. If the counter is greater than n by 2, then you would report that as the majority element. Okay, fair? This is it. This is what you need to do. I hope this is clear, but tell me the time complexity and the space complexity of this. I won't just take a break just this after. So I would take a break after I tell you the time complexity, and I would check each one of your answers. Okay. Now just see, this element is considering, this loop is considering all the elements. Okay. So this is big O of n. Okay. This is doing n operation, or rather, let's not talk about in terms of big O. Let's talk that this is doing n operation because it is considering all the n elements. For each operation, what are we doing? Basically, we are iterating on all the n elements again. So for this loop, for one operation, we are doing n operation again. Now n operation again. Now in this operation, let us see how many more operation we are doing. So this is just checking the condition with an if statement. Okay, just checking if it is equal or not. So this is nothing but a constant operation. This is also a constant operation, and this is also a constant operation. Okay, so we would leave the constants. Okay, and for each operation we are doing n operation. So for n operation we would be doing n into n operation, that is nothing but n square operation. So we come to the conclusion that the time complexity of this solution is big O of n square. Okay, now let us talk about the space complexity. Whenever we talk about the space complexity, we would take what are the auxiliary spaces that we have considered. Okay, just a small tip for considering the space complexity is that just remove all the variables, it won't count in the space complexity. Remove all the variables and see what other things you are using. Okay, so if you remove the variables, this is also a variable, this is also a variable, this is also a variable, and this is also a variable. Okay, sorry, this is not a variable, sorry, this is not a variable, this is already given. This is a variable, you just remove it. So these are the variables that we have created. Other than this, we are not initializing anything. So variables, I told that they should always be considered as constant. Constants are ignored in time complexity. So the space complexity would again be big O of 1. Now it might be the case, okay, it might be the case that suppose the interviewer is has shown you this, displayed you this question in an online judge. Now he is telling you to submit that. Okay, but before submitting he has asked you the verdict of the solution. It might be the case, just before submitting, why to submit and get you a wrong answer or a TLE? This is the right answer solution, but before submitting I should know that this would give a TLE or this would get accepted. Okay, so even before submitting, to impress your interviewer, what you can do is you can look at the constraints. Okay, so just write the time complexity and the space complexity. Now there is only one thing to consider here. Suppose n is less than equal to from 1 till less than equal to 10 to the power 5. This statement means that the lowest value of n is 1 and the highest value, maximum value of n is 10 to the power 5. Okay, so 10 to the power 5 multiplied by 10 to the power 5, because we are having n square operation and we would consider the upper bound, because there would exist a test case that would check your upper bound of your solution. Okay, so basically this would be 10 to the power 10. Okay, 10 to the power 10, and it is greater than 10 to the power 8, so you would get a TLE. Now for the people who don't know why I'm talking about 10 to the power 8, where this value came from, this value came to standardize, so standard, keep a standard over the time complexity. So the online judges, how they are performing is that they perform 10 to the power 8 operation in 1 second. Okay, 10 to the power 8 operation in 1 second. So to perform 10 to the power 10 operation, they need 100 more seconds. Okay, so basically mostly the online judges will be ranging from 1 to 10 to the power 5. 1 is the most frequent thing that you would encounter. Okay, so let's go with 1 only. Why? Because 10 to the power 2 seconds does not mean that 10 to the power 8 into 10 to the power 8 is equals to 10 to the power 16. I used this as a mistake in my early life of my coding. I thought that 2 seconds means that I would be able to do 10 to the power 16 operation. That means that I would be able to pass n square solution. No, it won't be the case. Okay, basically 10 to the power 8 multiplied by 2, there is nothing known as power. This is nothing but 2 into 10 to the power 8. Okay, so even though if it is 2 seconds or if it is 5 seconds, this solution won't pass. So basically you would be getting a TLE error. Okay, just tell me if this thing is clear or not. This brute force solution, how am I talking about the brute force solution, how am I coming to the conclusion that you are talking that brute force solution, how this and how time complexity, why it won't pass, these all questions are clear to you or not? Just quickly tell me, then we would move forward with the next solution of this question. Okay, fair enough. That's good approach, but first is okay. Why is it necessary to brute force solution first when I don't know the optimal conditions? See, it is not necessary, but it is kind of a common practice that people use. Why? Because you need to tell that you have just not, you just can't come up with an optimal solution directly. You should come with the brute force solution, then moving forward you should optimize it further. That is the most optimal approach. Now, so just keep yourself in the place of your interviewer and think this person would directly come and say that this is the optimal approach. Okay, this would flatter you more, or the thing that I am first step by step optimizing the current thing. Okay, which is needed in software industry, which is needed. Okay, no problem. Okay, yes, for how to analyze it. Okay, fair enough. We are clear with this. So let's proceed forward. Okay, so let me just share my screen and let's proceed forward. Okay, so now we will be talking about the main thing, which is map and hash map. And trust me, this is a very interesting debate that I would be diving into. Okay, this would be very interesting. Trust me. Just let me, okay, just let me check if it is, yeah, fair enough. So, first we would talk about the approach with a map, then we would talk about unordered map. Okay, and they both are grouped in a single thing. Why? I would tell you that. Okay, fair enough. Let's move forward. So, in the first discussion only, we told, okay, we told that we can just count the frequency. If the frequency of any of the elements crosses n by 2, then we can go move forward with that. We can do that. Okay, let's go with that only. Okay, but before moving forward, we just know what is map. So basically map is nothing but it counts the frequency, or it maps a particular key and a value pair. Okay, and this key and a value pair, so it maps key and value pair, how we are using it to use that as a frequency table. I would be telling you the main idea behind this is we have a key and a value pair. Okay, so this is a key and a value. Okay, so suppose the key is Siddharth, okay, and the value is 0. So suppose I saw Siddharth one more time. Okay, so now Siddharth would remain the same and this value would get incremented. So from 0, if I add 1, it would get incremented to 1. This is how we are kind of considering the same thing. Okay, so now what we can do is, this is a quite a bit easy thing. We would have a map, okay, of int and int, because the frequency would all be an integer and the given value is also in an integer, and we would name it as m. Then moving forward, what we can do is we can initialize, okay, we can start counting the frequency. Okay, we would start counting the frequency if the frequency of any of the elements crosses, okay, frequency of any of the elements crosses n by 2, then we would be saying that yes, this is fine. But before that, let me just implement this. Okay, and then we would talk about the time complexity and all, and then we would also take up the, okay, so we already have the main thing. Okay, now moving forward, what we can do is I would be initializing the size as n. Okay, and this is perfect. Now we would have a map of int and int. Okay, and then what we would do is we would name it as m. Then moving forward, we would use a for loop, int I is equals to 0, I is less than n, and I plus plus. Then we would add the values. Okay, m of a of I plus plus. we would increment the value. Okay, now moving forward, we would have a if statement 2. Okay, if m of a of I, this would definitely exist, is greater than n by 2. Okay, n by 2, we would return this particular element. Okay, return this particular element if it is needed. Okay, so we would just return a of I. Okay, and this is complete. Okay, and if it does not exist, then we would just write return -1. Okay, this is just a small bit solution. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now let us talk about the time complexity of this. The time complexity revolves around the usage of data structure, the map, the insertion, the deletion, and the taking out of element, accessing the element takes login operation. Okay, login operation. Now, so let me just take it. Yeah, so login operation. Yeah, so let me just take a screenshot of this, and this would be good to go. Okay, and let me just paste it. Okay, let me just remove this. Okay, this seems perfect. Okay, now this map data structure uses a login operation and the underlying data structure that it uses. Suppose the interviewer might ask you, and I am here to give you insights, not only the solution of this. The map uses red, black trees. Okay, so it is implemented. Okay, like that. Now moving forward, what can be done? We are increasing the frequency. So increasing the frequency, we are doing this, and we are again accessing the element. So this is insertion is again taking login, and this loop is running from 0 to n minus 1. This is doing n operation, and for each operation, so for one operation, it is doing log n operation. This loop is running n times. So n into one operation multiplying n with both sides, that is nothing but n log n. This is the time complexity of this particular solution. Now let's talk about space complexity too. Okay. Now all the elements are kept in a data structure. Okay. And suppose there is no majority element, then all the elements would be unique, and you need to keep all the elements in the map. If you need to keep all the elements in the map, then it would store n elements. N elements means that you would be storing in an auxiliary space. So that is nothing but taking up of big O of n. And this variables and all you can just ignore. Okay. Now let us talk about this is the time complexity and the space complexity. Now let us talk about a very interesting thing, which is unordered map. Okay. Unordered map, the same thing, which if we just use this. Okay, if we just unordered map. Okay, unordered map, we use this, and now there, what is the time complexity of this solution? Okay, tell me the time complexity of this solution. This is a kind of, I have told this many number of times, still I find it the most important thing to discuss, because this thing is less talked about. Okay, so I like to talk about the less things more, because the things which are already done, there is no point in doing that again. Okay, so tell me the time complexity if I use unordered map instead of map. Tell me the time complexity. Tell me, I'm waiting. How internally, any resource to understand that? Yes, sure, it is internally implemented using red black trees. Just understand trees, move forward with red black trees. Tell me the time complexity of the solution of unordered map, using the unordered map. Big O of n. Okay, fair enough. Quickly tell me. We are talking about the worst time complexity. Just a little bit of hint. Okay. Quickly tell me. So I would wait just for the next 10 seconds. Just quickly tell me, then we would just move forward. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so just a sec. What I would do is I would paste this question in the banner itself. Okay, just wait a sec because many people have been asking this thing. Okay, okay. I hope this is clear. Okay, Rahul Kumar. Okay, fair enough. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, so unordered map has a average time complexity as big O of 1. But, there is a but, and but is a very dangerous word in English, okay? So, the worst time complexity is big O of n, okay? So, you won't encounter this thing if you're not into online judges more, okay? So if you are into online judges more, then you would encounter this. Otherwise, you won't encounter this. But just an insight, because okay, now if you want to know why this is worst time complexity is big of n, there is a very good blog written by Neil on code forces. Just search it and you would know that. Okay, that is why. And you can Google search this too to confirm this. Okay, so if we generally talk about the average time complexity, so the time complexity would be for this would be big O of 1. Okay, big O of 1, we are hashing the elements and accessing the elements is all big O of 1. Okay, and then we are iterating on all the elements. So iterating on the elements and doing one operation, that means constant is to be ignored, and that means we are doing big O of an operation over this. Okay, fair enough. I hope I am clear. Okay, let's move forward with the next one. Okay, which is of reordering the elements. Okay, so let me just check if my screen is, yeah. So reordering of elements. Reorder, as the name suggests, what we would do is, suppose, so let's think about n by 2. So n by 2, its frequency is greater than n by 2. Okay, so let's keep that. Okay, let's keep that. Suppose we have a0, then we have a1, then we have a2, a3 and a4. Okay, we have this. Then suppose the number of elements of this is a1, 2 and 3. So let's assign some elements. Suppose this is 1 and this is 2, 2, 2 and this is 3. Suppose, and this is nothing but the sorted order. Sorted order. So if you just see that if the majority elements, okay, is greater than n by 2, it would form as a cluster. Okay, they would occur each after, okay, after each other. So what you can do is you can start the iteration. Okay, you would come at this position and you would see that the majority element is 1 and the count is also 1. Fair enough. Now you are moving forward. Okay, you are moving forward. Now the majority element is different. Now the majority element is 2 and the count is equals to 1. Now again we have 2. Majority elements remain the same. If majority elements remains the same, that means we need to update the counter. That means it would become 2. Now again it is same. So again we would update it. Okay, and this would become 3. Now we would come to the conclusion that after reordering of the elements, we would be able to get the particular thing. Let us quickly implement this. Okay, so what we can do is we can use the inbuilt sorting a comma a plus n. Okay, this array got sorted, and then what we can do is we can have a counter of 0. Okay, and then the majority element is -1. Okay, now what we would do is we would iterate on the whole array itself. Okay, now if the current element, that is a of I, is not equal to the majority element, what we would do is majority element would get updated to a of I. Okay, and then the count would be equal to 1. Now if the majority element remains the same, okay, if the majority elements remains the same, that means we need to update the counter. अब अपडेट हो गया, एलिमेंट्स असाइन हो गए, then we need to talk about the frequency. If the frequency of this n by 2 is greater than n by 2, then what we would do is return a of I. Okay, or the majority elements itself. Okay, if we are not able to get it, then nothing, but we need to return minus. Okay, a short and a simple solution. Let us talk about the time complexity too. Here we are sorting the array, so this is taking n log n if it is using quick sort or merge sort. Okay, then we are iterating on whole of the array, and then this is just a comparison, and we are assignment. This is taking constant operation. Here also we are incrementing the value, constant operation. We are checking the value, constant operation, and we are returning, constant operation. So basically we are iterating on all the n elements and we are doing constant operation. So for one operation we are doing constant, so for n operation we are again doing n operations only. Okay, we are, so this is big O of n, this whole block of code, and this is n log n. So the maximum was n log n upper bound we have found. So the space complexity of this, time complexity of this solution is n log n. And what is the space complexity? Which modified the given array only, we didn't take any auxiliary space, and the variables are not counted in the time space complexity. So basically this is nothing but n log n, and the space complexity is again big O of 1. Okay, fair enough. I hope this is clear. Still, I would wait for your confirmation and then we would move forward. Okay, and then we would talk about algorithm which is known as Moore's voting algorithm. Okay, then Moore's voting algorithm, and we would also talk about the less talked thing, that is nothing but that is nothing but the, what I can tell, sorry, that is nothing but the intuition behind it. Okay, fair enough. So quickly tell me, sir, please explain the short A of air. It is an inbuilt. It is an inbuilt in this C++ STL, where it sorts whole of the array using the inbuilt sort. Okay, just like in Python, just like in Java, just like in JavaScript, every language it is present. Not every language. I'm not talking. I don't know every language, so I can't talk about that. But still, if we talk about the languages which I have told, the mentioned JavaScript, Java, and then Python, and then C++ and C2. Okay. In recent taught algo, is it necessary to sort? Yes. If we don't sort this, then it won't appear at the same place. It might be the case that the elements are clustered here and there. Okay, and we won't be able to get out that. Okay, fair enough. Okay. So we are ready to proceed forward. Okay, now we would be proceeding forward. Now we would be talking about this Moore's voting algorithm. We would just try to vote this. So now Moore's voting algorithm. Okay, I would tell you the algorithm. We would implement it, and then we would talk why this is working. Okay, why this is working. Okay, Moore's voting algorithm, what it says is consider the first element as the majority element. Okay. Consider first as majority element. Then we need to move forward. Okay. If the current element is equal to the majority element, then we need to increase the counter. Okay. Now, if the current element is not equal to the majority element, then we decrease the counter. Okay. Now, it might be the case that we would increment the counter and it would keep getting incremented. And we would decrement the counter, it would keep getting decremented. But after decrementation, if C gets to the point 0, okay, then we would see that the majority element has changed. Okay, majority element would be the current element, and then the count would be equal to 1, and then we would keep proceeding forward. Okay, fair enough. Now, when I was in my initial days, to remember this algorithm was not an easy one. Why? Because I was not well accustomed with this mugging up technique. Okay, I'm not well accustomed with this. If either I need a storyline, either I need a relation with a real life example, okay, relate it with a real life example, or I can't just wake up every morning and start reading the same thing again and again like Chalisa, and I would say that I would be able to remember it. Okay, I'm not the person. So if you are also like me, let me tell you a brief intuition about it. Okay, then you would get a proper idea. So this Moore's voting algorithm, you can take out this voting thing out of it. Okay, and this would explain the two things. Okay, I would talk about the intuition. Okay, talking about the intuition, what it happens is, so voting algorithm, we are not able to find, suppose there are many candidates. Okay, there are many candidates. Okay, just think about this. There are many candidates in a particular border. Okay, okay, suppose they all want to be a particular minister or something. Okay, there are many candidates to that. I went to the first person, I don't know any of them. I went to the first person and told you that you can be my possible candidate. Okay, you can be my possible candidate. Now what happens is that, suppose I move to the next candidate and he is also a supporter of that candidate only. So what I would do is, I would see that he has more popularity, so he is more suitable. So I would increment the counter. Okay, I would increment the counter here. This is nothing but finding a suitable groom or a suitable candidate. Fair enough. Moving forward, suppose the next person is not your candidate, okay, or not your supporter. He is someone else supporter. So we would say that yes, his popularity is getting little bit down. So we would decrement the counter. Okay. Now, when the popularity has gone completely down, that means his popularity is now 0. And now we are able to see one more candidate. So if I'm able to see one more supporter of any other candidate, the last candidate is already gone. He has now 0 popularity. I got one more candidate who is having one supporter at least. So if he is having one supporter at least, that means that he is more suitable than the previous. So that is the main crux of this solution. So when it is getting to 0, that means that the current is more suitable than the previous. So we would mark it as the current, and we would say that your popularity is 1, which is better than having 0. Okay, so I would increment the counter to 1. And then there is one more thing to notice, is that we need to check if the majority element is true or not. This is what we need to check. Okay, now talking about the intuition, this is the intuition. Talking about the way to remember this, I would tell you, suppose a girl came at your house to get married. Okay, he found a person the family who came to your house, they found a person outside your home who was talking good about you. So he started getting more good. So he had more good things about you. So he's impressed by you. So he would give you +1 to his impression on his mind about you. Suppose then the next person is talking bad about him. So you would say that someone is talking good, someone is talking bad. So let's neutralize them and we would decrement. So his now impression has gone a little bit down, little bit down. Now, when the impression has got absolutely down, when the impression has got absolutely down, that is 0, then he found a person outside your home whom was talking about some other person. So you told that so the other family who came to see you, he told that I'm coming to see a person who has 0 popularity, but I can see a boy who is having more popularity than the person I'm going to get visited. So I would tell him, then yes, now you can be my suitable candidate for my daughter, the other person, the other family. Okay, this is how I remember and gave you the storyline. You can take it or leave it, it's your choice. So before we start implementing this, just I want to know that things are in place or not. Then we would talk about the time complexity and the space complexity after this. Okay, just before checking, because this is the main algorithm for what we are all about. Okay, so to quickly tell me, okay, is this equals to hash set in Java? Yes, map is equal to hash set in Java. So quickly tell me if things are clear to you. Thanks a lot, Kaushal Mogre. See, there are 32 live viewers at the moment, and I respect your time as well as mine. Okay. So please quickly tell me at least one or two, then we can move forward. I can save your time as well as mine. So it's a win-win situation. Okay. Because see, if you don't reply me, it would be just, I won't know that you are able to get my solution or not. If you're not able to get it, say it on my face and say me the point where you're not able to understand, and I would say it again. That's absolutely not an issue. So quickly say me. Okay. So I think this is getting quite lingered. Okay. One person has replied. So let's move forward with this. But I expect more replies from you. Okay. Still, let's move forward with the implementation, and the implementation as told it would be the same way. So I won't be implementing it again, rather I would be showing you the implementation. Okay, so I just used the Moore's voting algorithm. Okay, so what we are doing is we are currently telling that the majority elements index is the first element and its count is 1. So the first element is already counted. So what we would do is we would say that we would need to start from 1 because the first element is already handled. So we would start the iteration from 1 and we would keep moving forward. If the current element is equals to the majority element, we would increase the counter, else we would decrease the counter. If the majority element count goes to 0, then we would say that the majority elements index was the I itself and the count is equals to 1. Okay, then we are returning the majority element index. Okay, now I told you in the implementation that we need to check if it is the majority element or not. But here in this question that we are discussing, the majority element would exist. Okay, and if it does not exist, we can just check it. Okay, fair enough, we can also just check it before returning. So we would again just check it, what is the frequency of the majority element we have considered. If it is less than the frequency of n by 2, then it is not a majority element and we would return -1, else we would return the same element we have considered. Okay, I hope things are clear to you. Okay, now let me just remove my screen. Now tell me if you have any more doubts or not, and then we would move forward. and then we would just turn off the session. So for the next 1 minute, I would be waiting. If I go blank for the next 1 minute, I would be just turning off the session. Okay. Someone was asking me something. The person, where is that? Is it possible to learn DSA in 2 months? Okay. Data structures and algorithms can be learned in only 15 days. Okay. Because there are finite number of data structures, there are finite number of algorithms, and there is not much. Okay. So know all the data structures and algorithm, it is possible in just 15 days. The only thing we talk about is not knowing the data structures and algorithm, but the ability to implement it if we get a question. Suppose I get a question and I am able to use the data structures and algorithm to solve that particular question itself. Okay. Can you explain a little bit about space complexity? Can you please share the list, Siddharth? Which list? Can we use binary search here? Yes, we can use binary search, but we need to sort this array. To sort this array means that we would be already having n log n. So even if we use binary search, there is no point in doing that. Can you explain a little about time complexity? Saidev, can you tell me that you want me to talk about the time complexity with respect to this question, or you want me to talk about time complexity in general? Okay. Now, can you please share the list, Siddharth, of the DSA list? Okay. So DSA list, there is already a SDE list which was posted just 1 day before the in the LinkedIn by Geeks for Geeks itself. Just search DSA sheet and you would get all the data structures and algorithm list. Okay. Now, if you talk about the list which I talk in my past stream, I don't know if you're talking about that all only. So if you're talking about that, consider asking me on LinkedIn. Okay. I'm learning data structure. Is it good for competitive coding? Learning data structures in C is absolutely great, but C is not preferred in competitive programming because C is quite akin to C++, and C++ is more easy than C. Okay. Why? Because we have the pre-implementation of the data structures that we use. So, but there is a person, like, I'm not talking about that it is not preferable. I told that it is not preferable, but it is possible. A person like Rainboy, who is among the top coders of the world, and he is just 16 years old, still uses C to solve problems in code forces. Okay. So it is great if you can, but doing it with C++ would be easier. Okay. You're most welcome, Darshan. Okay. Your LinkedIn profile, my LinkedIn profile is Siddharth Hazra, SIDDHARTHAHAZRA. Sir, open CV course, I don't know. I belong from the DSA section of the Geeks for Geeks, so I'm not able. So still, I would just post my name, just search my name, and you would get it. Okay. So how to proceed when stuck after trying everything? So what you can do is, when you are stuck with everything and you're not able to move forward, you can just read the data structure, all the algorithms, see the tags. Okay. So see the tags and try to think in that direction by using that tag. Moving forward, okay, suppose you're still not able to get it. Then you see the first line of the editorial, then the second line after 15 minutes of trying. Okay. Then, okay, so yes, Moore's voting algorithm, I would talk about it. Okay. So he was the person who was telling that Saidev, space complexity in general. Okay, so I'll talk about it. Okay. So after doing all that, so you would know that I find, so there might be two cases. Either you didn't knew the data structure or the algorithm, or you knew that particular algorithm but was not able to implement it. So practice a little bit of more amount of question for that particular data structure. Okay, so let me just remove the banner, and then let me just So what is your score on GFG? Just kidding. Actually, the thing is that if you just see my score, you won't be able to get a good amount. Why? Because you would think that I am a noob. But the problem is that I have two accounts, one with official and one with my personal. And I'm, to be honest, I'm not a GFG or something guy. I'm I'm mostly into competitive programming. Okay, so I don't know C++. I'm a C students. I have 6 months for placement. Can I continue learning data structure in C itself? Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Okay. So if you are moving forward with C, then shifting to C++ would just be a matter of just 5 days or 6 days. I think I can't solve lead code medium questions. Give some tips. So जो चीज नहीं हो रहा वो ज्यादा करो. The thing which you are not able to do it more. Okay, just this simple. ज्यादा सोचो मत. Try to think everything practically. There is nothing known as rocket science or something tips. If suppose you are also trying and someone else is also trying, there are some tips and tricks. There is something known as hard work as well as smart work. But if you think it practically, there is not much smart work in this DSA thing. Okay, like if you talk about what is the difference between this, suppose I'm able to do the easy level questions on lead code, still I'm doing it for the next 2 months, and the next person who is able to do the easy questions on lead code, he is doing the medium level problems on lead code. Okay, so he would be improving more. There is no rocket science because he is getting out of its comfort zone, and you have been reading this code for the last childhood days, that get out of your comfort zone to achieve something, and that's same. Nothing different as such. Those who tell that there is some tips and tricks, 10, 20 tips and tricks to do something like that, ayo, that is nothing. That is just a clickbait or something. Okay, yeah, tips and tricks do exist, but not that much that you would achieve something very great than others. Okay, so now talking about the space complexity in general, what you can think is, suppose you implemented a particular solution, you are good with time complexity. So if you are good with time complexity, you can just see what are the auxiliary means what are the extra things that we have used. Just remove all the variables. What you can do is, after implementing or after just submitting the solution, because in online judges you don't get a memory limit exceeded in usual days. Okay, it is very unusual thing. So you would just remove all the variables that you have used to implement the solution. Then just see what are the things you have you have used an array of n by 2. So n by 2 means it would be boiled down to the big O of n. That means that a space complexity is big of n. You are using an array of n cross n. That means that the space complexity would be n square. For this, for experienced professional of 2 years, even though we are good at DSA, okay, if that person was in support, will it be useful? Yeah, it would be useful, because many people, many majority of the people get into service based companies or into support projects, and then they start preparing for this, because the awareness of DSA has now come into picture. Earlier it was not that much. I think so. I'm not that much old guy, but still I think so that the awareness was not that much in the last 4 or 5 years. Okay, if you look 4 or 5 years back, you won't think that this thing was there. Okay, I think so. Which language should I prefer for DSA and why? The language which you should prefer for DSA is C++. Why? Because the community is, because the community is the maximum. You, for using that community support, you need to understand that language. Okay, suppose you are trying to communicate, you are trying to becoming a guide of India. To become the guide of India, you need to learn the language first. Which language first you should learn? You should learn the language first which many people are talking. The maximum people are talking. Maximum people are talking in Hindi, so you should go move forward with Hindi only. The same thing goes for here. C++ is used by majority, so you should go with C++. Now, what are the other perks apart from this majority thing? Why this majority has came into this picture? Because it has the fastest execution time. Its STL is a charm. Okay, it is like your most supportive girlfriend you would ever find. Okay, 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 he's talking just about preference. So I would wait for the next 30 seconds. If that is not the case, I won't get any further questions. I would be just turning off the session. Can DSA help in logic building also? Yeah, obviously DSA would help in logic building, because if you learn DSA, you would try to use that, you would try to implement that, use that learning To use that learning, you would need to solve question. If you start solving question, you would start having that logic building thing. Okay, I observe that linked lists are least asked in interview experience that I have gone through. More emphasis is given to other data structure. Is it correct? No, it is not correct. Because if you just search, find a loop in a linked list, remove a loop in a linked list, find the head of the linked list, then you would come to the conclusion. Just see the number of submission, just see the problem tags, and then you would know that what is the scenario. I'm not talking about it, I'm not trying to justify anything, I might be wrong, but just see the facts and figures, just see the tags, the company tags that is there. Okay, fair enough. I think no doubts are popping in. Still, I would wait. In what sequence should I go for the topics in DSC? You should move forward with linear search, then you should move forward with binary search, then you should learn about searching, then you should, this searching is done, then you should move forward to sorting, then you should learn about different sorting. You can skip the radix sort, bucket sort, and then the lean in the bubble sort too, but insertion sort and these all sortings can be done. Okay, selection sort can be done. Okay, it should be done. Sorry, it should be done. Moving forward, you should head towards recursion, then backtracking, then trees, then linked list, and then graphs. Okay, these all things. Okay. Okay, how DSA is helpful in competitive programming is only DSA helpful in competitive, is that only useful in CP? I don't get your question. How DSA is helpful in competitive programming? Competitive programming is matched with maths with DSA only. DSA is not just useful in competitive programming, it is the major part of interview. Okay, you are most welcome. So I hope it is done. Okay, so still I would wait for the time frame of next 15 seconds. From 30 I came down to 15 because the timing is now 7. Okay, it's going to be 7 after 10 seconds. Okay, you are most welcome, Arshad. What is the difference between DSA and CP? Okay, fair enough. So difference between CP and DSA, so many people have answered this. Still I would talk about this, that CP is taking that DSA thing sportingly, and DSA is just DSA. Okay, taking the DSA sportingly is just CP. Okay, and if you mix a little bit of maths towards it, it would be code forces. If you add more maths towards it, it would be add coder. If you remove the math, or if you lower down the amount of maths, it would be code shift. Okay, fair enough. Still, you're most welcome, Ram. You're most welcome, Sai. How important is mathematics in DSA? How important mathematics in DSA? So if you come across sieve, if you come across factorial, if you come across the mathematics part, you would see. If you come across combinatorics, so it is important. Okay, just the basic idea of combinatorics, the basic idea of probability, these all things are little bit of necessary, I can say. How much it will take to learn C++ if I already know C? Just a matter of 5 to 6 days, nothing more. If you're taking more, you're just wasting your time. If a person has not done any project for his own, but he's good at DSA, then will he be able to cross all the rounds? Yes, there have been many examples, they were able to do it. Many examples. So Galaxo, I don't think there is a need to spam. Okay, because it is important to do graphs for interviews. Yes, it is important. Okay, it is important. Many which platform is best to practice DSA? So if I talk about the best platform to practice DSA is Geeks for Geeks. Why I would be talking about this? Because there is a feature of that video editorial. There is video editorial linked at the back of the article. Then there is the official solution by Geeks for Geeks, which is not there in other website, and you can't see the problem tags in other websites. But in Geeks for Geeks, you can see the problem tag, company tags too. This is why I preferred using Geeks for Geeks for proper reason. Not because I'm working in that organization, but because it has some perks associated with it. Okay. Galaxo is already answered, so I would just block this user because he's just spamming the same thing again and again. Fourth sem just started coding. Is this late? No, it is absolutely not late. Okay, you still have a lot of time. Okay, you still have a lot of time. So see, if you talk about 1 year, many things have changed in the last 1 year. In the last 2 years, many extroverts have been converted to introverts. We're just talking about DSA thing, bro. There's a lot. Couldn't find your LinkedIn profile with the name. Can I get the link, please? Yeah, sure. Why not? Let me give you the link too. Okay. Just let me provide you with the link. So this session would go for the next 2-3 minutes only. So consider asking your doubts quickly because the session is now getting long. Okay. Which app do you use for drawing and explaining concept in a session? I use OpenBoard. Okay. Which topics for completing? Yes, this is already told. This is already answered. I have done 20 plus questions except hard. Still does not get the confidence. Any suggestion? So what you can do is just take up all the hard problems and start doing that. If you take up all the hard problems, you would be having a confidence over the medium problems. If you are able to do all the medium problems, then you would already, I think you would already have the confidence over easy and basic problems. Same thing goes. If you try to do one level up for the one level down, you would be able to get the confidence. Okay, this is already how I'm having this is 11 March. What should I prepare for DSA? They do ask a lot about graphs and DP. So do that. Okay, how to prepare for internships? Internships, how to prepare for that? You should first start, if you have time, you should start with CP and then move towards DSA. And at the last part, you should also do the core subjects. And then a little bit back, you should always also do the development. And you should see which is you are getting more into CP or DSA, or you are getting CP or projects. So if you're getting an interest in both, do both. If you're getting interested in one, do one, but try to excel in that. Try to outperform everyone. But the hard problems are not that easy, bro. So if you're talking about hard problems, it is not easy for you. A person who is able to solve the basic problem, the medium one are not easy for him. Okay, so the easy and the hard thing depends on person to person. Okay, it is just a matter of perspective. Okay, so thing which is hard for you now, if you just practice and excel in that, it would be easy after a certain point of time. A person who has already done a lot of hard problems and he is good over that, he would say that the hard problems are easy, but for you the hard problems are hard. For you the basic medium problems are easy, but for someone the basic medium problems will be hard. So it's just a matter of perspective. Get out of that. Is core subjects important for internships? As far as I have observed and as far as I have seen, the core subjects are not that much important because you're just appearing for an intern role and they don't expect you to learn all the core subjects. But still, if you are able to manage the core subjects, then they would be quite impressed with that. Okay, so that is 7:05. We have been live for around 1 minute 3 minutes. We would wait for the next 1 minute. Quickly send your doubts, and after that I won't be taking your doubts. Okay, quickly tell me if you want to. Okay, fair enough. So we are out of questions. So that's it for today. Okay, thank you and have a nice day. I tried i tried with the brute force approach. I tried to move up the ladder and to show you how we are calculating the time complexity, how we are calculating the space complexity. So shall I pay for internships? You should never pay for internships, neither you should get do unpaid internships. Okay, this paying thing is absolutely not. Still there might be someone who would tell you that do some unpaid internships, but trust me, this is not worth it. This is not worth it. Been here, done that. Been here, done that. I have done an unpaid internships, I have done a paid internships. Been here. Okay, that is absolutely not justable. Okay, what else is important other than DSA? You should be good with the explanation skill. The soft skills are important. The core subjects are important. The projects are important. Okay, how to get an internship being a fresher from a tier 3 college? Don't worry, don't worry. I am from Netaji Subhash Engineering College, Kolkata. Okay, that is much worse than a tier 3 college. Okay, much worse. Okay, not a single company visits our campus. Okay, but still, if I'm able to do that, you would be able to do that. We belong from the same group. Okay, mostly CPP will be preferred. Okay, how to choose good project for internship, that entirely depends upon your tech stack. And for your tech stack, what is a good project? I don't know all the tech stack. Okay, neither you have mentioned your tech stack. So that's it for today. Thank you and have a nice day. I tried to move up the ladder. I hope that you have got how to express yourself in and get the most out of yourself in the interview. Okay, is system design for engineering fresher student? Sometimes it is too asked. Web development, you can mix two stacks, like you can mix DSA with web development. I have been into web development, that's why I'm telling. Thank you, everyone. Good night.